The Palestrina stitch is an embroidery stitch that's not only decorative, but it's great for outlines and borders. It has a beautiful knotted look and will give your embroidery some dimension. Let's get started. As with any embroidery, you want to put your fabric in an embroidery hoop and make sure your fabric is pulled taut. Also put some embroidery floss on an embroidery needle. With this stitch, it's best to use all 6 strands because it looks better when using a thicker thread. Make sure to tie a knot at the end of the floss. If you need a guide, use a fabric marker or chalk to draw yourself a line to follow on your fabric. Bring your needle from the wrong side to the right side on your line and pull it all the way through. 1/4 of an inch away from where my thread is coming out, I'm going to go into my fabric above the line and then come out below the line. This just needs to be a small stitch. It's not too bad. And then I'm going to pull this all the way through, and that's going to create a diagonal stitch. You can see it going up. I'm going to put my needle underneath that stitch because I want to bring the stitch down towards where it's coming out below my line. But I'm not grabbing any fabric. So the needle is just going directly under that stitch. And you can see it starts to pull it. So now I have a straight stitch, I have a stitch going down, and then I have this little part going up. So I'm going to bring my needle underneath this one little leg that's going up, but I'm keeping all my thread down below the line because I want to bring my needle over that thread because that's what's going to create the knot. And I'm just going to slowly pull this so I get my knot in the center where I want it. So I'm pulling directly above my stitch. There's my first knot. So to create the effect again, or continue the stitch, I'm just going to go above the line, below the line to create that first diagonal stitch. Then I'm going to go directly underneath it, not grabbing fabric. So it pulls that down. Keeping my thread down below the line, I'm going to bring my needle, just go underneath the diagonal leg because I want to create the knot now by having the needle pass over my thread. Slowly pull it to create the knot in the center. So when I'm pulling the last section for the knot, I'm always pulling above it because I want the knot to be in the center. So let's do one more. Above the line, below the line. Create that first diagonal stitch. Go under the diagonal stitch with just the needle so it pulls it. Then with my thread down below the line, I'm going to go just under the diagonal leg, bring my needle over my thread, make sure I don't grab any fabric here, to create the knot. Slowly pull it above the stitch so the knot ends up in the center. And you can see you're creating a series of knots. So this is just going to be a line in this continued fashion, and the closer you put these vertical stitches, the closer your knots are going to be. So you can do them a little further apart if you wish. To end it, I'm just going to go down directly on the line, and that'll finish the stitch, and then I can just tie a knot in the back. Here's a sideways view of what it looks like, and you can see the stitch raises up a little and doesn't lie flat on the fabric. A variation you can do is putting your knots further apart. So this example, my knots are fairly close together. This one, I put my vertical stitch, you can see a lot further apart, so it kind of gives it a different look. You can also do a variation where you do a larger vertical stitch and then have your knots offset so they're not perfectly center. You're basically doing the same step as before. So I'm going to go above the line, below the line, but make it a little bit of a larger stitch than in my first example here. So I'm creating that first vertical stitch, and then I'm just going to go underneath that stitch, not grabbing any fabric, pull it. Now when I pull it, I am going to pull it so it goes further down so it's more offset. And then I'm just going to go under that top leg stitch to create that knot. And then when I pull it again, I'm pulling it so it goes down below. So you can see it's just exactly the same thing we did before, but I'm just When I'm pulling my thread, I'm always pulling it so it's going down below the line, and that's how you get the knots to be down towards the bottom instead of center. This is a really pretty embroidery stitch, so try it with pearl cotton thread or use an embroidery floss with color variations for a cool effect. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please subscribe and click the bell icon to get notified of our new releases. Also check out ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 450 sewing tutorials. If you would like to directly support us, you can join our YouTube membership and earn some exclusive perks. Thanks for watching!